At 9:17 a.m., in a quiet courtroom that smelled like old coffee and printer paper, the judge leaned forward and asked one question that made the entire HOA side freeze. Why is your contractor removing hinges from a gate that doesn't belong to the homeowners association? Nobody answered, just this heavy silence, and my incident card from the police sitting on the table like a loaded fact. I didn't end up in court because I threw some wild party or set the neighborhood on fire. I ended up there because I grilled a couple burgers in my own backyard, and the HOA tried to treat me like a member they could punish. My name's Ethan Cole, and I live in a place called Maple Ridge, the kind of subdivision that looks normal until you learn it's split into phases. Phase 3 has the clubhouse, the pool, the strict rules. The whole we're protecting property values thing. Phase 1, where my house sits, is older, quieter, and the HOA is voluntary. And that matters more than you'd think, because some people hear homeowners association, and it flips a switch in their head like they're wearing a badge. The night this started, it was honestly nothing. My daughter had just hit a big milestone at school, and I wanted one normal evening, a couple photos, some burgers, no music blasting, no crowd, no chaos. Just smoke rising straight up into the cool air. The sound of the grill lid clanking, the kind of moment you assume is too boring for anyone to mess with. The next morning I walked out to grab the trash bins and saw this bright orange notice zip-tied to my fence like I was a crime scene. Big block letters, fire hazard and cease and desist. There was even a fake-looking case number and a deadline like they were trying to manufacture urgency. And I just stood there for a second thinking, you've got to be kidding me. I didn't rip it down. I took my phone out first, filmed it, got the date, got the time. Because I've learned that the fastest way to beat nonsense is to document it before it mutates. Then I checked my cameras, and there she was, Brenda Wallace. Brenda, the self-appointed queen of Phase 3, walking up in a neat little polo shirt with an HOA logo like she was on the clock. She crouched, zip-tied the notice, took 2 steps back, snapped a picture like it was evidence, and left. That was my first real clue. This wasn't about safety. This was about control and about putting me on display. By lunch, Brenda had posted in the neighborhood group doing that fake concern voice people use when they want applause. Friendly reminder. Open flames create a risk for families. We must enforce standards. She didn't say my name, but she didn't need to. Everybody knows how those posts work. You blur the target just enough so you can deny it later, but you make it obvious enough that the comments do the dirty work for you. I didn't comment. I didn't argue in the thread like a rookie. I sent one email, polite, simple, and deadly, on purpose. Hi, Brenda. Can you confirm whether my parcel is under the Homeowners Association? If yes, please send the recorded covenants and the membership documentation tied to my address. Also, who placed a notice on my property this morning? I wasn't emotional. I wasn't rude. I was asking for paper, because paper is where bullies start to sweat. Her reply came back fast, and it was basically posture. Everyone in Maple Ridge must follow community safety standards. Do not hide behind technicalities. Comply immediately. No documents. No proof. Just that tone, like she could speak things into existence. 2 days later, I got an official-looking violation letter in my mailbox with my address, and a member account number I'd never seen before. Like they had just decided to create a file on me and declare it real. That's when the irritation turned into something heavier. Because a fake notice is annoying. But inventing membership, inventing authority, that's a whole different line. Friday morning, I'm working from home and I hear this diesel rumble outside. White work truck pulls up community compliance services printed on the door. 2 guys hop out with a clipboard and a tool bag like this is just another job on the schedule. They don't ring my bell. They don't ask questions. They walk straight toward the side gate that leads to my yard, and I watch the taller one pull out a wrench and start loosening the hinges. Right there on my property. I stepped out fast, phone already recording, and I said, "Hey, stop. That gate is private property. You can't touch that." The foreman didn't even look embarrassed. He just gave me that tired contractor stare and said, "We've got a work order. Gate access adjustment. Owner non-compliance. Bill goes to the HOA." And then Brenda's voice floated in from the sidewalk like she was directing traffic. She was standing on public pavement, holding her own phone up, filming. Careful not to touch anything because people like her always want plausible deniability. "Proceed," she said. "Calm, cold, you're authorized. He's obstructing a safety inspection." And for a second, I swear I felt that weird, unreal sensation like I'm standing in my own yard and someone else is narrating my rights away. Not because I thought she was actually right, but because I could see how far she was willing to push in broad daylight. I told the workers, "If you keep going, you're trespassing. I'm not part of your homeowners association, and you don't have permission." Brenda smirked the classic Karen smirk and said, "Then prove it. Because in this community, we don't do whatever we want." It wasn't even anger at that point. It was disbelief, mixed with the kind of tension that sits in your shoulders because you know a simple mistake can spiral into a mess you'll spend months cleaning up. I didn't shove anyone. I didn't threaten. I did the one thing people like Brenda hate the most. I made it official. I called the non-emergency line and said, "There are contractors attempting to alter my gate without permission. Someone claiming to be the HOA president is directing them." And suddenly the whole vibe changed. Brenda's voice got a little higher. The workers started glancing at each other, because nobody wants to be the guy holding a wrench when a patrol car pulls up. The officer arrived, listened, asked a couple questions, and wrote it up. He didn't need to make a dramatic arrest. He just did what professionals do. He created a record, an incident number, a timestamp, a dot on a timeline that doesn't disappear. Brenda tried to charm him. She tried the "we're just enforcing standards" script, and the officer very calmly asked her, "Do you have documentation that this property is under your association?" She didn't. She had opinions. She had vibes. She had a polo shirt. But she didn't have paper. The contractors packed up, annoyed, and left. Brenda shot me a look like I'd embarrassed her in front of the whole street. And here's the part people don't talk about: the moment after the standoff when the adrenaline drains. That night I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, replaying the footage, reading the letters again, lining up dates. Not doubting my rights, but feeling the weight of the hassle. Because even if you're correct, you can still get buried under forms, phone calls, and nonsense. You can still end up with a lien threat in your mailbox if someone decides to play dirty. You can still get a scary insurance inquiry because someone filed a complaint with the city just to stir the pot. And I had this low, quiet thought hit me. Not, "Am I wrong?" but how much time are they about to steal from my life? That's the part that made me feel close to quitting. Not morally, practically. Like, is it worth it to keep pushing back? Or do I just keep my head down, stop grilling, and let her feel like she won? Then I got the message that changed everything. A neighbor I barely knew, one of those people who watches everything but never comments, sent me a screenshot. It was from internal meeting notes, the kind that weren't meant to leave Phase 3. And there it was in plain language, a mention that my parcel might not even fall under their authority. But they were moving forward anyway, as a deterrent. Basically, we know he's outside our reach, but we're going to swing at him and see if he flinches. That flipped my mindset instantly, because if they were willing to do that to me, they were willing to do it to anyone. So I hired a real estate attorney. Not a loud one, not a dramatic one. The kind of person who doesn't care about neighborhood gossip, just recorded documents and what a judge will actually recognize. We pulled my closing paperwork. We pulled the county parcel maps. We built a clean timeline, the orange notice, Brenda on camera, zip tying it, the fake membership account number, the contractor truck, the hinge tool, the police incident. Then Brenda scheduled a compliance hearing at the Phase 3 clubhouse. She made it sound formal, like a tribunal. There was even a security guy standing by the doors, off-duty officer, arms crossed, watching the room. Brenda sat at the front table like a principal ready to suspend a student. And when my name came up, she started talking in that rehearsed voice. "Mr. Cole has repeatedly refused to comply with community safety standards." My attorney didn't let her get comfortable. He slid a printed parcel map across the table and said, "Before we go further, please identify where my client agreed to Homeowners Association authority." Brenda blinked. She tried to pivot. Safety isn't limited by membership. And my attorney, without raising his voice, said, "Authority is." Then he turned to the contractor foreman who had been invited as a witness and asked, "Who instructed you to remove hardware from that gate?" The foreman shifted. He looked at Brenda. He looked at security. And then he said it plain as day. Brenda told us to proceed. Security stepped forward slightly and said, "Ma'am, stop talking. Do not argue with witnesses." You could feel the room tilt, because that's what happens when someone's power is built on intimidation and assumption. And suddenly the assumptions get challenged in public. The next morning we filed for an emergency order. We didn't ask for drama. We asked for boundaries, no contact, no contractors, no claiming jurisdiction without recorded proof. In court, the judge didn't care about clubhouse politics or Facebook posts. He cared about one thing: who has legal authority over that property. And when he asked why an HOA contractor was removing hinges from a private gate, and nobody on Brenda's side could answer with documents, that was it. Temporary restraining order granted. No more notices, no more hearings, no more invented membership files. And the part that hit Brenda the hardest wasn't even the order. It was what followed. HOA leadership had to clean up the mess she created. The invoices got withdrawn. The complaints got walked back. The board meeting after that? Brenda didn't sit at the front table anymore. She didn't get to call herself president. She just sat there, small and silent, while the rest of them voted her out like a liability. And I didn't throw a party. I didn't make a victory lap around the block. I went home, stood in my backyard, and lit the grill again. Quiet, steady, normal. The way it should have been from the start. Lesson paper beats power trips every single time.